My name is Naomi Carter, and I never thought a hotel front desk would be the place my marriage ended. One question, asked out loud in front of strangers, blew apart 12 years of trust and exposed a life I was never meant to see. If you've ever felt something was off but stayed quiet, this story is for you. Tell me where you're watching from, and hit subscribe before we begin. I didn't plan to go to the hotel. That's the part people never understand later when they ask why I was there. I wasn't suspicious. I wasn't tracking him. I wasn't following some instinct. I was doing what I always did, cleaning up behind him. Michael left in a rush that morning, tie crooked, phone pressed to his ear, already halfway gone. Somewhere between the kitchen counter and the garage door, he forgot a slim black folder. No label, no notes. Just the one thing he'd called non-negotiable the night before. "Those papers can't wait," he'd said. "If I don't have them, the whole meeting's a mess." So I drove. It was late afternoon when I pulled into the Hotel Valet, the kind of place that pretends to be discreet but thrives on being seen. Polished stone floors, soft instrumental music, business travelers rolling carry-ons like they're all moving at the same speed, couples checking in, laughing quietly, already in weekend mode. I walked in with the folder tucked under my arm, rehearsing how annoyed I'd sound when I handed it to him. I was already planning dinner in my head, wondering if Avery had finished her homework, thinking about how exhausted I felt lately, carrying everything while he was always somewhere else. The front desk clerk smiled when I stepped forward. "Good afternoon," she said brightly. "How can I help you?" "I'm here to drop something off for my husband," I said, placing the folder on the counter. "Michael Carter. He checked in earlier." Her fingers paused over the keyboard. She looked up at me again. Same smile, slightly tighter now. "I just need to confirm," she said, lowering her voice a notch. "Are you the first wife or the second wife?" The world didn't explode. It didn't go quiet either. It tilted. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her, that my brain had scrambled the words. First, second, wife. Those words didn't belong together. Not in my life, not out loud, not here. "I'm sorry," I said. She glanced at the screen, then back at me, confusion flickering across her face like she was suddenly aware she'd stepped into something she couldn't step back out of. "He checked in with another woman," she said carefully. "Earlier today. She identified herself as his wife. We just need to make sure our records are accurate." There were people behind me. I could feel them now, waiting, watching, pretending not to listen while listening to every word. A man shifted his suitcase. Someone coughed. A woman across the lobby stared openly. My heart didn't race. It dropped. Not emotionally, physically. Like gravity had grabbed it and pulled it straight down into my chest. "I'm his wife," I said. The clerk's eyes widened. "Oh," she said. "Then, I'm very sorry. Which room?" I asked. She hesitated. "I can't." "Which room?" I repeated, my voice steady enough to scare even me. She typed quickly, shoulders tight, then slid a key sleeve halfway toward me and stopped. Her manager appeared beside her like he'd been summoned by tension alone. "Ma'am," he said, polite and firm. "What seems to be the issue?" "I'm delivering something to my husband," I said. "Apparently to the room he's sharing with another woman." The manager looked at the screen, then at me, then briefly at the growing audience in the lobby. "I'm afraid we can't allow—" "I don't need to go up," I said. "I just need him to come down." He studied my face, maybe expecting hysteria. Tears. A scene. I gave him nothing. After a moment, he nodded. "I'll call the room." The wait was short, painfully short. Michael walked into the lobby 5 minutes later. He was smiling when he stepped off the elevator, talking, relaxed. He looked good. Too good. Jacket off, sleeves rolled. The man I hadn't seen at home in months. Then he saw me. The smile vanished like it had never existed. He stopped walking. Stopped breathing, it looked like. His eyes flicked from my face to the folder on the counter to the small crowd that had fully stopped pretending now. "Naomi," he said, "what are you doing here?" I picked up the folder and held it out. "You forgot this," I said. "You said it couldn't wait." He didn't take it. Behind him, the elevator doors opened again. She stepped out. "You always know." Instantly. The way she stood close to him without touching. The way she looked at me, then at him, like she was trying to read which role she was supposed to play next. "Michael?" she said softly. The clerk cleared her throat. "Sir, we just need to clarify." "No," he said sharply. Too sharply. "This is a misunderstanding." I laughed. It slipped out before I could stop it. Short, dry, loud enough to echo off the stone floor. "You checked into a hotel," I said, "with another woman, and she told them she was your wife." People were staring now. Phones out. No one hiding it anymore. He reached for my arm. I stepped back. "Don't," I said. "Please," he whispered. "Not here." I leaned in just enough for him to hear me. "You made it here," I said. "You don't get to choose where it ends." I turned to the clerk and slid the folder back across the counter. "He won't need these," I said. "He's about to lose access to everything else too." Michael's face went pale. "Naomi, stop," he said. "You don't know what you're doing." I looked at him fully then. Really looked. 12 years collapsed into that moment. The late nights, the distance, the lies dressed up as work. The man who thought being careful meant being untouchable. "Oh," I said quietly. "I know exactly what I'm doing." I turned and walked out. The automatic doors opened. The heat hit my face. The sound of the lobby disappeared behind me like it had never existed. I didn't cry in the car. I didn't scream. I didn't call anyone. I sat there with my hands on the steering wheel, heart steady again, mind already moving. He thought the hotel was the story. It wasn't. It was just the beginning. I didn't marry Michael because he was exciting. That's the truth people don't like. They want betrayal stories to start with red flags waving from day one. But Michael wasn't reckless. He was reliable, calm, measured, the kind of man who spoke in plans instead of promises. When we met, that felt like safety. We built our life slowly. No whirlwind, no drama. A townhouse first, then the house in Scottsdale when Avery was born. He traveled even then, but it was different. Short trips, constant check-ins, photos sent from airport lounges like proof of effort. I handled the home, the schedules, the bills. When his consulting work took off, it was because I made room for it. I took fewer contracts of my own. I passed on promotions that required travel. I told myself this was what partnership looked like. The money improved. The distance did too. Michael learned how to be absent without being gone. He sat at the table but answered emails. He kissed my forehead while scrolling. He called me rock and anchor like compliments, never noticing how heavy those words became. The warning signs were subtle. Too subtle to fight. Too convenient to excuse. A new phone, for work. A password change he laughed off. Sudden precision with finances. Expenses categorized but never explained. He stopped asking my opinion on investments and started informing me after the fact. "You trust me, right?" he'd say. I did. That's the part that costs the most. The first time I felt something was wrong wasn't romantic. It was financial. A hotel charge I didn't recognize. A small amount. Easy to miss. He explained it away without hesitation. "They double-booked me," he said. "I had to move. I'll expense it." He never did. There were more after that. Always reasonable. Always boring. Always just below the threshold of argument. By the time I noticed the pattern, I'd already trained myself not to question him. Avery noticed before I did. She was 8 when she asked why Daddy smiled at his phone, but not at us anymore. I told her adults got tired. That work was stressful. I told her stories I hadn't proven true. Children know when something is off. They just wait for permission to say it. The day after the hotel, I went through everything. Not emotionally, methodically. Bank statements, travel logs, credit card histories. I printed timelines like evidence because that's what they were. The affair wasn't impulsive. It was maintained, funded, scheduled. The other woman wasn't an accident. She was a line item. I found messages saved under a contact name I didn't recognize. Polite, familiar, intimate in a way that bypassed romance and went straight to logistics. Flights coordinated, rooms booked, excuses rehearsed. And beneath it all, a quiet certainty on his part that I would never look closely enough to see. That night, my friend Leah came over after I put Avery to bed. I didn't tell her everything. I showed her the hotel charge, the messages, the dates. She didn't ask questions. She didn't soften her voice. She said, "Naomi, this isn't a mistake. This is a second life." Hearing it out loud changed something in me. It removed the last place where doubt could hide. Still, the worst confirmation came from Avery. She sat beside me on the couch 2 days later, drawing absent-mindedly, coloring outside the lines like her hands were elsewhere. "Mom?" she said. "Yes? Is Daddy mad at us?" "No," I said automatically. She shrugged. "He's nicer to someone else." I didn't move. "What do you mean?" She hesitated, then spoke like she'd been waiting. "When he FaceTimes sometimes, he goes into the car," she said. "And he laughs. He doesn't laugh like that here." The room felt very small. "How long have you noticed?" I asked. She thought about it. A while. That was it. No screenshot, no confession, no apology from him could undo that sentence. A child doesn't imagine patterns. They observe them. The stakes snapped into focus after that. This wasn't just my marriage. It was Avery's sense of safety. It was the house she slept in. The future I'd built assuming honesty was the foundation. And financially, the damage was already real. Joint accounts. Shared assets. Property tied to his income. I realized how exposed I'd allowed myself to become. How much trust I'd converted into vulnerability. I could have confronted him then. I didn't. Because confrontation is loud and temporary, and Michael thrived in noise. He explained. He deflected. He exhausted people until they gave up. I wasn't giving him that. Instead, I made a decision that night while Avery slept down the hall, door crack the way she liked it. I would stop reacting. I would start ending things. He didn't know it yet, but the marriage was already over. The only question left was how cleanly I could dismantle the life he thought he controlled. The hotel had exposed the lie. What came next would expose the cost. I didn't wake up angry the next morning. I woke up precise. There's a difference. Anger is loud and wasteful. Precision is quiet and efficient. Precision gets things done. Michael texted like nothing had happened. "Can we talk later? You caught me off guard yesterday. Let's not do anything dramatic." I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my laptop and made a list. Not emotional, not symbolic, just factual. Accounts, properties, vehicles, insurance, investments, credit lines. Every place my name existed beside his. Every door he assumed would stay unlocked. By noon, I had a lawyer. Not a friend of a friend, not a fixer. A woman who specialized in financial disentanglement and custody protection. She didn't ask why. She asked when and how much. By 2 o'clock, we were freezing accounts that required dual signatures. By 3, I had moved my personal funds into a separate account he couldn't touch. By 4, I was scanning documents and uploading backups he didn't know existed. I didn't rush. Rushing is how you make mistakes. I packed methodically that evening. Not everything, just essentials. Avery's clothes, her school materials, the things that would make tomorrow feel normal for her. I left the house looking intact. No drama, no trash bags, no visible collapse. The house wasn't a battleground. It was an asset. Before bed, I listed it. Quietly. Michael loved to say the house was our nest. What he meant was, it made him look successful. I wasn't burning it down. I was cashing it in. The next morning, I took Avery to school like always. Same routine, same goodbye. Same smile I forced into place for her sake. "You okay, Mom?" she asked, watching me too closely. "I'm handling things," I said. "That's my job." She nodded. That was enough for her. At 10:30, Michael called. I let it ring. At 10:35, he called again. I answered on the third ring. "What did you do?" he asked. I pictured him somewhere polished, glass walls, neutral carpet, coffee going cold in a paper cup. A man used to controlling outcomes suddenly unsure of the variables. "I organize my life," I said. "You locked me out of accounts," he said. "My card declined." "Yes." "You can't do that." "I already did." There was silence. Then a sharp inhale, like he was recalibrating. "This is impulsive," he said. "We need to slow down." I smiled. He couldn't see it, but it steadied me. "This is the slowest I've ever moved," I said. He lowered his voice. "You're going to hurt yourself doing this." I thought of Avery, of her quiet observation, of the laugh he saved for someone else. "No," I said. "I'm preventing further damage. You're overreacting." That word. The oldest one in the book. "I found the messages," I said calmly. "The travel history, the hotel charges. I'm not confused, Michael. I'm finished." His breath hitched. "You went through my phone?" "You went through our marriage," I said. "Don't pretend privacy matters now." By noon, he showed up at the house. I wasn't there. He called again. Left a voicemail this time. His voice cracked in places he didn't realize. "Naomi, this is getting out of hand. We can fix this. I just need you to stop." I didn't stop. By 3, he learned the house was listed. By 4, his lawyer called mine. By 5, he realized the version of me that waited, explained, and absorbed had disappeared. That evening, he finally texted something honest. "I didn't think you'd do this." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed back, "That's why this is working." I put the phone down. I wasn't chasing revenge yet. I was building momentum. And Michael had just discovered what it felt like to be behind. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It crept in through inconveniences, awkward silences, doors that used to open without effort suddenly refusing to move. Michael lost access to money first. Not dramatically. No alarms, no headlines, just friction. His expense account flagged. His personal card declined again, this time in front of a client. He called his bank. They told him to call me. That was new. He showed up at the house that night like he still belonged there. Stood in the driveway staring at the "for sale" sign as if it were a personal insult. "This is humiliating," he said when I opened the door. "You humiliated yourself," I replied. He stepped inside anyway, looking around like he expected things to be missing. They weren't. The house looked the same. That unsettled him more than chaos would have. "You're turning everyone against me," he said. "I haven't spoken to anyone," I said. "People are noticing on their own." And they were. His brother stopped returning calls. His parents suddenly needed time to process. Invitations disappeared, lunches canceled, meetings postponed. Reputation doesn't collapse in public first. It dissolves privately. The other woman learned quickly that her position wasn't protected. She called him crying after her credit card was declined at a boutique he'd taken her to before. The apartment he helped her secure suddenly became her responsibility alone. Promises that felt solid when they were funded evaporated the moment money tightened. She wasn't loyal. She was leased. Our social circle reacted in stages. Some reached out to me quietly. Coffee offers. Just checking in texts that said everything without saying anything. Others avoided me entirely, afraid proximity meant involvement. I didn't chase anyone. People reveal themselves when pressure rises. Avery noticed the change before Michael did. He tried to pick her up from school on a day that wasn't his. The office called me. I told them no. That night, she asked why Daddy was calling so much. "Because he's uncomfortable," I said, "and he's not used to that." She considered this, then nodded. Michael wasn't uncomfortable. He was panicking. He called my lawyer. emailed me long messages about working this out privately, left voicemails where his tone swung between authority and pleading, sometimes in the same sentence. "This is bad for my image," he said in one. "You're being unreasonable." I deleted it. Then came the first real crack. A mutual friend, someone who'd known Michael longer than I had, called him out in public. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, just a casual comment at a gathering he thought was safe. "So," the friend said, loud enough for others to hear, "which hotel was it again?" Michael laughed too fast, too long. The room shifted. That night, he called me 10 times. I answered once. "Make this stop," he said. "Please." I imagined him alone somewhere neutral. Hotel room, corporate rental, the spaces between lives. I imagined how heavy silence must feel when it's earned. "You can't undo exposure," I said. "You can only survive it." He swallowed hard. "I made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a system." Silence stretched between us. "Tell me what you want," he said finally. I thought about that. "I want you to understand," I said, "that nothing you do next changes what I'm doing." He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for days. "You're really doing this," he said. "Yes. I don't recognize you." "That's because you never saw me clearly," I replied. He showed up unannounced the next afternoon while Avery was at school. This time he didn't come in angry. He came in small. "I can explain everything," he said. "I know," I replied. "That's why I'm not listening." He stood there, hands empty, voice stripped of confidence. For the first time, he wasn't managing optics. He was facing consequence. And he hated how calm I was. As he left, he turned back once more. "You don't have to destroy me," he said. I didn't answer, because destruction wasn't the goal. Accountability was, and it had only just begun. The second confrontation didn't happen by accident. It happened because Michael still believed appearances could save him. He invited me to dinner. Not privately. Not quietly. He chose a high-end restaurant in Old Town Scottsdale, the kind of place where deals were whispered over linen tablecloths and reputations were currency. He framed it as closure, as being adults, as doing this with dignity. What he really wanted was witnesses. People who still knew his name, who still nodded when he walked in. I agreed. Not because I needed closure, because I understood timing. I arrived early, sat at the bar, ordered water, watched the room fill. Familiar faces trickled in. Colleagues, acquaintances, couples who'd been in our orbit for years. I caught the glances when they recognized me, the pauses, the recalculations. Michael arrived 10 minutes late, already flustered, scanning the room like he was checking exits. He smiled when he saw me, relief flashing across his face as if my presence alone meant safety. "You look good," he said, sliding into the seat across from me. "So do you," I replied. He relaxed slightly. "Mistake." The hostess led us to a central table, not tucked away, visible from everywhere. Michael didn't object. He never did when he thought optics were working in his favor. We hadn't ordered yet when she appeared. The other woman. I didn't know she'd come, but the moment I saw her hesitation at the edge of the dining room, I knew Michael had invited her too. He'd told himself it was brave, transparent, progressive. She stood there holding her phone like a shield, eyes darting between us. Michael froze. "This wasn't—" he started. "Relax," I said calmly. "This is perfect." People were watching now, not openly, but attentively. The way people do when they sense something real is about to happen. She approached the table slowly. "I didn't know she'd be here," she said to him. "I didn't know you'd still be," I replied, meeting her eyes. She flushed. "He said you were separated." Michael's mouth opened, closed. I leaned back in my chair. "Let me guess," I said. He was just waiting for the right time. Things were complicated. He didn't want to hurt anyone. Her face tightened. She looked at him, searching. "Is that true?" she asked. Michael reached for her hand. She didn't take it. The waiter arrived with menus, froze for half a second, then set them down like he was placing evidence. I didn't touch mine. "I'll make this simple," I said, loud enough to carry. "He checked into a hotel with you, told the front desk you were his wife, asked me to be discreet when I found out." A ripple moved through nearby tables. Chairs stilled. Forks paused midair. Michael hissed my name. "Don't," I said, still calm. "You asked for dignity. This is honesty." She looked at him again. "You said that wasn't true." He stared at the table. That was the moment. Not anger, not shouting. Just the quiet collapse of a lie under fluorescent light. "I lost access to everything," she said suddenly, voice shaking. "The apartment, the card, all of it." I nodded. "Because it was never yours. It was borrowed." She stood abruptly, chair scraping loudly enough to turn heads fully now. "You let me believe," she started. "I let you believe nothing," he snapped, finally looking up. "You knew I was married." The room inhaled. She laughed once, sharp and incredulous. "You told everyone you were getting divorced," she said. "You said she was unstable." That word landed hard. I smiled, not because it was funny, but because it was over. "Unstable people don't document," I said. "They react." I prepared. I reached into my bag and placed a single envelope on the table. Not thick, not dramatic. Michael stared at it like it might bite. "What's that?" he asked. "A copy," I said, "of what's already been filed." His face drained. Around us, phones were out now. No one pretending anymore. This wasn't gossip. This was spectacle. She shook her head slowly, realization settling in. "You ruined my life," she said to him. "No," I said gently. "He revealed it." She walked away without another word. Michael sat there, shoulders slumped, exposed in a way he'd never been before. Not as a husband, not as a professional, just as a man whose story no longer belonged to him. "This didn't have to be public," he said quietly. I stood. "You made it public the moment you lied in a lobby full of strangers," I replied. "I'm just making sure the truth finishes its sentence." I turned to leave. As I walked past the bar, someone whispered my name. Another person nodded at me with something like respect. Behind me, Michael stayed seated. Alone. For the first time, the room saw him clearly, and there was no way to unsee it. Michael didn't disappear after the restaurant. Men like him never do. They retreat just long enough to reframe the story. 2 days later, his version began circulating. Quietly at first, then with confidence. He told people we'd been functionally separated, that I was emotionally volatile, that the restaurant scene was proof I was spiraling. He leaned hard into concern, into restraint, into the image of a man being unfairly punished by an unreasonable wife. It almost worked. Almost. Because what Michael never understood was this. I wasn't fighting him in the present. I'd already secured the past. The first crack came from his workplace. Someone forwarded me an internal memo he didn't know I'd see. Questions about ethics, about expense reports, about travel reimbursements that didn't align with client schedules. The affair hadn't just been personal, it had been subsidized. By the end of the week, his name was being said differently, with pauses, with qualifiers. He noticed. He posted a statement online. Nothing dramatic, just a carefully worded paragraph about privacy, respect, and false narratives. He disabled comments. He smiled in the photo like he always had, confident the mask still fit. That was when the receipts started moving. Not from me, from people he'd underestimated. A former colleague released screenshots, messages where Michael bragged about keeping both lives clean. A woman from his firm anonymously submitted expense discrepancies to HR. Someone leaked the hotel loyalty account showing overlapping stays, duplicate bookings, dates that matched conferences he'd never attended. The internet did what it always does. It connected dots. Someone posted the restaurant video. Cropped, clean. The moment he denied everything. The moment the other woman walked away, it spread faster than context ever could. A hashtag followed. I didn't start it. I didn't encourage it. But I watched. Michael called me that night, his voice raw and unsteady. "You have to stop this," he said. "This is getting out of control." "I don't control other people," I replied. "You taught me that." "They're ruining my career," he said. "This isn't justice. It's mob behavior." I thought about Avery, about how carefully I'd shielded her, about how quietly I'd moved. "This is accountability," I said. "It just happens to be loud." He hung up. The next morning, his firm announced he was being placed on indefinite leave pending investigation. No accusations. Just procedure. But procedure is how power drains. The other woman resurfaced online too, not defending him, defending herself. She posted messages, tried to reframe herself as misled, victimized, trapped. The problem was timing. Her posts didn't contradict mine. They confirmed them. Every attempt to save face added another layer of proof. Every denial created demand for more evidence. People who'd once admired Michael now dissected him with precision. Not cruelty, curiosity. That's what destroyed him. He tried one last pivot, a long email sent to friends, family, colleagues. Apologetic, vague, carefully centered on growth and reflection. He asked for grace, for understanding, for privacy. Someone leaked that too. By the weekend, his name was no longer attached to achievement. It was shorthand, a cautionary tale. Michael showed up at my door that Sunday afternoon. He looked smaller, thinner, like gravity had finally found him. "They won't stop," he said. "No matter what I say." I crossed my arms. Didn't invite him in. "Because it's not about you anymore," I said. "It's about what you represent." He swallowed. I didn't think it would go this far. I believed him. Men like Michael think control ends at the edges of their planning. They never account for consequences that move without permission. "I need you to say something," he said. "Just one post, just one line saying you don't condone this." I laughed softly. "You told people I was unstable," I said. "You don't get my credibility now." His voice broke. "Please." That word again. So small. So late. "I'm protecting my daughter," I said. "Everything else is collateral." He stood there for a long moment, then nodded. Not in agreement. In resignation. When he left, I locked the door and turned my phone off. By Monday, the investigation expanded. Clients pulled contracts. His speaking engagements vanished. Invitations evaporated. The narrative had inverted completely. Michael wasn't misunderstood. He was documented. The final blow came quietly. A short announcement from his firm confirming termination due to violations of conduct and trust. No commentary, no drama. Just a period at the end of a sentence he'd written himself. That night, I sat on the patio after Avery went to bed, scrolling through nothing in particular. The noise had peaked and begun to decay. Attention was moving on. It always does. But the damage stayed. Michael texted once more. "I've lost everything." I typed back, then deleted it. What I wanted to say wasn't cruel. It was accurate. You don't lose what was never truly yours. I put the phone down. The exposure phase was over. What came next wouldn't be loud. It would be permanent. The loud part ended first. After the exposure burned through its oxygen, what remained was paperwork, silence, and consequences that didn't need an audience. That's where Michael finally broke. The divorce moved faster than he expected. Not because I rushed it, but because I had prepared for it long before he realized it was real. Asset disclosures came back uneven. Accounts he'd assumed were invisible surfaced cleanly on spreadsheets. Transfers that once felt small now looked intentional when lined up in sequence. The judge didn't need drama. She needed numbers. And the numbers spoke clearly. The house sold within 3 weeks. Not for what Michael thought it was worth, for what the market said it was worth. Equity split in my favor after forensic accounting uncovered how much marital money had been redirected without my consent. His lawyer tried to negotiate tone. Mine negotiated facts. Custody was never a spectacle. It didn't need to be. The pattern of absence did that work for us. Travel records, missed school events, last-minute cancellations. Avery's therapist provided a simple, devastating summary. Consistency mattered, and Michael hadn't provided it. Primary custody went to me. Michael didn't argue. He couldn't afford to, not financially, not strategically. Then his family intervened. His father called first. Not angry. Ashamed. "I didn't raise him this way," he said, "and I won't fund the consequences." Support vanished overnight. The business loan his parents had quietly backed was recalled. His brother withdrew a partnership offer that had once been a sure thing. The family closed ranks, not around him, but around distance. The other woman collapsed under pressure too. Without Michael's income cushioning reality, her version of the story unraveled. The apartment was gone. The lifestyle evaporated. Mutual acquaintances drifted away once the novelty wore off and the facts stayed. She tried to contact me once. A long message, apologetic, defensive, circular. I didn't respond. Some lessons don't need replies. Michael spiraled quietly. He downsized into a short-term rental he couldn't afford long-term. Took contract work beneath his former title. Sold the watch he wore like armor. Returned the leased car early, penalties be damned. He called me late one night, voice flat. "They're garnishing part of my income," he said. "Yes," I replied. "I can't keep up. That's not my responsibility." There was a pause. "I don't know who I am without everything," he admitted. I thought about that after the call ended, because here was the truth I'd learned the hard way. Some people don't lose relationships. They lose infrastructure. The final hearing was uneventful. No speeches, no tears, just signatures and timestamps. A marriage reduced to clauses and conclusions. When the judge declared it finalized, Michael nodded like he'd been waiting for permission to sit down for months. Outside the courthouse, he stopped me. "I never meant to destroy our family," he said. I looked at him. Really looked. Not as my husband, not even as Avery's father, just as a man facing the sum of his choices. "Intent doesn't cancel impact," I said, "and love doesn't survive secrecy." He had no response. As we walked away in opposite directions, I felt something unexpected. Not triumph. Relief. The dismantling was complete. The noise was gone. The debts, emotional, financial, relational, had been assigned where they belonged. Michael hadn't been ruined by me. He'd been revealed. And now, there was nothing left to negotiate. The last time I saw Michael wasn't dramatic. No crowd. No raised voices. No surprise witnesses. Just a quiet conference room at the mediation office. Beige walls, a scratch table, 2 cups of untouched coffee cooling between us. The kind of place designed to drain emotion out of decisions. He arrived early. That alone told me how far he'd fallen. When I walked in, he stood up too fast. Like muscle memory still thought courtesy might buy him something. He looked older than he had weeks ago. Not aged, worn. The confidence that once held him upright had nowhere to rest. "Thank you for coming," he said. I sat. "This is the last thing to finalize." He nodded. "I know." The mediator excused herself, giving us privacy. The door closed softly, sealing us in with everything unsaid. Michael cleared his throat. "I just wanted a moment. Without lawyers. Without paperwork." "You have one," I said. "Use it carefully." He folded his hands, stared at them like they might tell him what to say. "I didn't plan for any of this," he said. "It started small." I didn't interrupt. Interrupting would have been mercy. "I was lonely," he continued. "I felt invisible. I didn't think—" "You thought," I said calmly. "You just didn't think it would cost you." He flinched. "I never wanted to hurt Avery. That's the problem," I replied. "You wanted everything without accounting for who paid." Silence settled. Heavy. Earned. I've lost my job, he said quietly. My family barely speaks to me. I'm living out of a suitcase. I'm not asking you to fix it. His voice cracked. I need to know if there's any part of you that still... No, I said. The word landed cleanly. No hesitation. No anger. He closed his eyes like he'd been bracing for it, but still hoped. I loved you, he said. I know, I replied. You just loved yourself more. He opened his eyes, something raw there now. I would do anything to go back. That's because you don't like who you are now, I said. Not because you understand what you destroyed. He leaned forward. I'm trying. I'm in therapy. I'm owning my mistakes. I believe you, I said. And it doesn't change anything. That's the part people don't warn you about. How strange it feels to mean it. I'm not punishing you, I continued. I'm protecting what's left of me. He swallowed hard. What about forgiveness? I considered that. Forgiveness isn't access, I said. And it's not reconciliation. It's something I might do quietly one day for myself. You don't get to request it like a favor. He nodded slowly. I don't recognize you anymore. I finally do, I said. He looked up, desperate now. Can we at least agree to be friendly? For Avery? I softened, just a fraction. Not for him. For her. We will be respectful, I said. We will be civil. We will communicate through the structure in place. But we will not be friends. Why? He asked. Why can't we just reset? Because resets are for accidents, I said. This was a pattern. He leaned back, defeated. I miss our life, he said. No, I replied gently. You miss the version of it that asked nothing of you. The door opened then. The mediator returned with the final documents. Michael straightened, reflexively trying to regain composure, but the moment had already passed. We signed in silence. Each signature felt lighter than the last, like dropping weight I hadn't realized I was still carrying. When it was done, Michael stood again. This is really it, he said. Yes. He hesitated. Do you hate me? I looked at him, truly looked. At the man who had once been my husband, the man who had gambled his life on secrecy and lost. No, I said. I don't feel enough about you to hate you. That one hurt him. I could tell. Hate would have meant relevance. We walked out together into the parking lot. Sunlight sharp and unforgiving. The world continuing, indifferent. He stopped beside his car. Older model now. Dented bumper. No shine. I hope you're happy, he said. I am becoming myself again, I replied. That's better. He nodded once, eyes glossy. Goodbye, Naomi. I paused, hand on my car door. Goodbye, Michael. I didn't watch him leave. I got in, adjusted the mirror, and drove forward without looking back. Some endings don't need witnesses. They just need resolve. A year later, my life doesn't look dramatic. That's how I know it's real. The mornings are quiet. Avery eats breakfast at the kitchen counter in the new house, smaller, brighter, chosen deliberately. She talks more now, laughs easily. Her shoulders don't tense when her phone buzzes or when a car pulls into the driveway unexpectedly. Children don't need explanations when stability returns. They feel it. So do I. Work steadied first. Without the constant background noise of managing someone else's chaos, I focused. Projects closed cleanly. Promotions followed. Not because I chased them, but because I was finally present enough to accept them without apology. Money stopped feeling like leverage and started feeling like security again. Bills were boring. Savings grew quietly. I slept better knowing every account was transparent. Every decision mine. Michael faded faster than I expected. Not in a tragic way. In an ordinary one. He showed up late to custody exchanges. Forgot details Avery never did. He stopped trying to explain himself and started saying less. His texts became shorter, less confident, eventually procedural. I heard through others that he'd moved again, that he'd taken contract work far from Scottsdale, that people no longer lowered their voices when they mentioned his name. No one asked me how I felt about that, which was its own kind of mercy. Avery asked once, months after everything settled, if I was sad we didn't have a normal family anymore. I told her the truth. We do, I said. It just looks different than before. She thought about it, then smiled. I like this one better. So did I. There were moments, rare, quiet ones, when memory tried to sneak in. Not longing. Habit. The echo of a life I'd outgrown before I realized it no longer fit. But the echo never stayed. Because freedom is louder than nostalgia when you finally earn it. I didn't rebuild by proving anything. I rebuilt by removing what didn't belong. By choosing peace over performance. By understanding that betrayal doesn't always arrive to break you. It arrives to release you from something that was already costing too much. The hotel lobby used to replay in my head. The clerk's voice. The pause. The public exposure. Now it feels distant, not painful. Just instructive. That moment didn't end my marriage. It ended my denial. Michael once asked if I ever missed him. The answer was simple. I missed who I was before I started shrinking to accommodate his lies. I don't miss that anymore. I don't warn women. I don't preach. I don't perform strength online or rewrite the story for sympathy. I live well. And that, it turns out, is the most permanent form of closure. Because betrayal only has power when it defines you. Once it doesn't, you're free. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever faced betrayal, silence, or the courage it takes to choose yourself, click the hype button so this message reaches someone who needs it. Share your thoughts or your own experience in the comments. I read them, and you're not alone here. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and the like button. More stories like this are coming, and I'd love to have you with me.